Hello and happy Monday, fellow Rotarians. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, please join me in the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? I'd like to now invite Joel Dykstra up for our invocation. Joel?
Please bow your head with me, if you will. Our Father, we come to you this day filled with gratitude for all of the blessings that we enjoy from your hand, all of the things, Lord, that you have provided for us in this community and that we celebrate with Rotary and fellowship with members here. Lord, we thank you especially for the opportunities that we have to grow in knowledge and in education. And Lord, we pray for those who labor in those fields that the next generation can achieve even greater things than we have. Thank you, Lord, for this food. This we ask. Amen.
We have a number of friendly faces with us today. For those of you I have not met, my name is Cindy Peterson. I have the pleasure of being president for Downtown Rotary this year. Because of our visit from the district governor and our panelists today, we are not going to do individual introductions, but I do want to offer a warm welcome to our guests. So if our guests would please stand along with the person who invited them. If our guests would please stand and the person who invited them. Rotarians, please help me welcome our guests today. We have two items for Rotary business. The first is if you have not yet registered for our Sanford International program, lunch is included, but you do have to register by, Angie, what date? September 2nd. I believe I shared that Andy North has confirmed to be one of our panelists that day. Certainly one of my favorite programs of the year, and I hope many of you will join us and be part of that, but you do have to register in advance by September 2nd. Our second item of Rotary business, what a treat. I am so very pleased to welcome our district governor, John Schneider, to the stage. While he's coming up, John, I will share a little bit about our district governor. Our club is part of what's called District 5610. It encompasses all of South Dakota as well as parts of Minnesota, Iowa, and Nebraska. District Governor Schneider is here to share the latest district initiatives and his goals for his term as governor. This is a volunteer capacity, and my goodness, you are very busy. John, thank you for being with us today. Help me welcome John.
Well, thank you very much, Cindy, and it's an honor to be here, and I, very gratified that you've given me such a warm welcome today. I've been asked to condense my 20 to 30 minute program to 8 to 12, so here we go. So I talk a little bit about my heritage. I'm a fourth generation farmer and farm owner on the farm that we live in today. Where do I point? There we go. I'm a lifelong pork producer, and picture of our more modern facility, photo of our farm. We, in addition to raising hogs, we raise corn and soybeans. But the last few months, I've said I'm officially retired. My neighbor across the road has been custom farming the land for us, and then for about the last 8 years or 10, we have a crew that comes in and does the hog work for me. And this is my family. We've got 2 children. They both live in Iowa, and they've given us 5 grandchildren, and then we had a nephew visiting that got in the picture that day. As you know, most of the clubs in District 5610 are in South Dakota, and Carol and I love visiting South Dakota, and we make an annual pilgrimage to Mount Rushmore every year. My hobby is model railroading. I've played in the Lamar's Municipal Band for 51 years. I played baritone sax, and I like to collect antique farmall tractors. And then I also want to talk about my Rotary story. You may have heard people say that I've been a member of Rotary, which I have been for 37 years, or I'm a Rotarian. And which you are is up to you, but I'd like to talk about my journey a little bit, because 14 years ago I volunteered to pull the Rotary float. I've been manager of our big fundraiser where we sell soft serve ice cream at the Plymouth County Fair for 12 years. And 5 years ago, Steve Harrington, past district governor, asked me to chair his district conference in Lamar's. And this was an eye-opening experience for me, really turned a corner in my relationship with Rotary, because I traveled the district and saw the great things that Rotary was doing outside our clubs. So that was really a transition for me to, become a Rotarian. And I also chaired our club's 100th anniversary celebration. So this is our president, Jennifer Jones of Windsor, Ontario. Intelligent, warm, inspiring leader of Rotary. We're great to have her as our president this year. And her theme is Imagine Rotary. And this is her theme banner that I'll leave here at the club, and I want to talk about that. And that is that the circle in the middle could represent an individual Rotarian. The purple circle could represent a Rotary meeting table, as we have here, or board meeting table. The 7 dots could represent individual Rotarians, or Rotary's 7 areas of focus. The green line represents an Aborigine digging stick, or the work that Rotarians do. The Australian theme is because the International Convention will be in Melbourne, Australia next May. And Jennifer's theme, Imagine Rotary, the color purple, is because it represents the women's movement, and Jennifer is the first female president of Rotary International. So, Cindy, I'll present this to you. Photographer over here.
Thank you. And I will put this here. Thank you, John.
You're welcome. Okay, so Rotary has a vision statement that says, "Together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across our globe, in our communities, and in ourselves." And you highlight the letters, "Together people create change." It really meant a lot to me. It's what Rotarians are all about, service above self. And to have that vision statement come to fruition, Rotary has an action plan of 4 steps. The first step is to increase our impact, and there is no greater impact that Rotary has made upon the world but the attempt to eradicate polio. Rotary is also involved in global grants. Our district is. You think of global grants, it's money going to some foreign country. In this case, money came to South Dakota. And that was at the White Clay Makerspace in Clay Center, Nebraska. An individual had the dream of one of the convenience stores in Clay Center that had been selling beer to the Native American community be converted to a makerspace where Native Americans came and created the wares that they have for sale, beadwork, jewelry, fabrics, quilts, and so on. So Carol and I had a very nice visit with this woman at her quilting machine, And she was so appreciative of Rotary and so grateful and so excited about the makerspace because up to that time she had made 100 quilts, had sold them, had enough money to buy herself a car, her daughter a car, and money to raise her grandchildren. So imagine the impact that Rotarians made on her life and the lives of Native Americans. The Hope Haven Wheelchair Distribution Project, I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. Wheelchairs are distributed all over the world, many of them by Rotarians. If you want more information, talk to Steve Sikorsky or maybe others, and the Sioux Falls West Club is very instrumental in this project too. Number 2, expand our reach, basically means to grow our membership, either through membership in our clubs or forming new clubs. And this past year, a new Rotaract club was formed in Sturgis, South Dakota, and here's members of that club and some Rotary leaders from the Black Hills. Third, enhance participant engagement. My Rotaryist training has taught me that to retain your members, build membership, you got to keep them engaged. And Cherokee was dwindling in membership 10 years ago. They needed something to engage their members. They came up with a backpack program, a re-energize their club, increase their membership 2- and 3-fold. And here they're inducting some new members. Iowa did a project to engage our members through a district grant. We had a packing event, 13,000 meals that evening, and they got shipped off to Honduras along with pallets of meals packed by other groups. And so imagine the impact Rotary made on those hungry people in Honduras. Fourth ability is to increase our ability to adapt, and our district was a great example of that, immediately going to Zoom meetings on the district level and also in our own clubs. And you know, your audio-visual presentation here with Facebook is a fine example of that too. We had a Rotary Covet grant process at that time, and this is an example. The Marshall Rotary Club got a grant, purchased refurbished laptops and tablets, and gave them to the residents of nursing home and assisted living facilities in the Marshall area. Imagine the impact it made on those people that they could, you know, face-to-face, virtually, you know, through Zoom, communicate with their family. Okay, I have some district goals. Membership, continue past President Shaker Mehta's phrase of each one bring one, each Rotarian to bring a guest every year, and hope that some of them will join, increase our membership by 10%. I know it's a lofty goal, but you won't reach your goals if you don't have a lofty one. You'll work hard to do it. And to develop a plan for clubs to engage membership and grow their membership. Foundation, district giving to the foundation of $250,000. Remember, almost 50% of that is returned to our district for use in global grants or district grants to our clubs. And this phrase I heard at a church service last year: does your lifestyle determine your giving, or does your giving determine your lifestyle? And I thought that was a profound statement that I heard, and think about it in our giving and our family, and I think you should too. Yeah, and continue our commitment to engage in ending human trafficking, where we've got one global grant in draft stage, where the project will be here in South Dakota, another one on the ground floor, where it would work strictly with the Native American community. Have club goals. Cindy, I looked it up. You've put club goals in Club Runner. Thank you. One of the very few clubs that have done that. Set goals for foundation giving. The great baseball philosopher Yogi Berra once said, if you don't know where you're going, you may end up somewhere else. So goal setting is so important to me. Grow your membership in diversity, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Jennifer Jones has asked us district governors to talk about that. Diversity can mean more than, you know, religion and gender and race, but also handicap, economic status, occupation, and so on. So please keep that in mind as you recruit new members. equity, not the political definition of equal outcomes, but that everyone be treated equally. Inclusion, bottom line is make everyone feel welcome. And so I know you haven't had 100% attendance today, but please educate the members that aren't here today about what I talked about and what you've learned. And finally, Rotary District Conference will be in Sioux City, September 22 through 24. I know Steve Harrington has spoken to you about that already. The 22nd is an informal picnic type gathering at Lewis and Clark Visitor Center. And as a pork producer, I said, we gotta have pork. And so the Plymouth County pork producers will be coming with their grill and grilling their famous chops in the glove for us that evening. Also a great lineup of speakers, Navy SEAL Boyd Renner, Foundation trustee Greg Pod, past International Board of Director member Susie Howe, and Claire Richards, a Rotaractor from St. Cloud, who is just a firecracker and will fire the whole crowd up, inspire us about Rotaract and how to inspire and attract young members into Rotary. So that's it. If you want to hear the complete program with all the details, come to Centerville on Thursday or Canton on the 6th. So, wow, 12 minutes. So. Thank you very much.
There is a lot happening in Rotary. And John, thank you again for your volunteer leadership and for helping our club see what's happening beyond these four walls. If we think about the goals that we've set forward for our club this year, I think there's some really special alignment with what John shared, particularly with that engagement element and how are we inviting and activating members into our mission, also helping provide some more exposure and knowledge about what's happening at not just a district level, but an international level. We are 1.8 million strong, 1.4 million strong across the world, and certainly there's special things happening all across that footprint for Rotary. As a reminder to our board members, we have a board meeting right after this. District Governor will stay and be a part of our board meetings. We'll have a chance to deep dive into some of those elements and share with the governor things that are happening at our club level as well. We are going to switch gears to our program. There are 4 more people sitting here than there were just a moment ago, and I'm so grateful to welcome all of you here today. Our program today is Innovation in Higher Education, Responding to Changes and Challenges. We have past President Jason Herrboldt as our moderator, and I'm going to turn it over to Jason in just a moment. Before I do, I am going to tell you a little bit about each of our panelists. First, Barry H. Dunn. He was named the 20th president of South Dakota State University in April 2016, the 4th alumnus chosen to lead the institution. Dunn received a bachelor's degree in biology at SDSU in 1975, a master's in animal science in 1977, and a PhD also in animal science in 2000. Dunn has a rich academic background, was a successful rancher and farm operator, and is a published author and researcher. He is a nationally recognized expert in beef production and ranching systems and is a member of several professional organizations. Dunn has been instrumental in several key initiatives during his time as president, including the implementation of Imagine 2023. I love that your word is Imagine, and did you think of that earlier when that was happening? It is the university's current 5-year strategic plan. The plan sets the strategic direction for the university and infuses a set of core values around people-centered leadership, creativity, integrity, diversity, and excellence. Since January 2022, Jay Perry has been the vice president of the new University of South Dakota Sioux Falls, a non-residential campus of USD located in the northwest corner of Sioux Falls. Prior to stepping into that role, Perry worked nearly 8 years for the South Dakota Board of Regents, including serving as the Vice President for Academic Affairs. He also spent 12 years as a management consultant for government entities before working in higher education. A native of Indiana, Jay holds a bachelor's degree in political science from the University of Evansville, a master's in history from Indiana University, and a doctorate from Bowling Green State University. You have been many places before coming and hanging out with us, haven't you? President of Southeast Tech, Robert Griggs, leads the overall vision and direction for the organization. He has served in progressively responsible roles in higher education for more than 20 years as a faculty member, department chair, dean, associate vice president, and academic vice president, most recently within the Minnesota State College and University system. As a first-generation college student, Griggs is passionate about student access, affordability, and transferability. In this regard, he has collaboratively led college-wide master academic planning efforts, participated in a successful $35 million capital campaign, developed new academic pathways for students through the creation of Stackable Credentials, and created collaborative partnerships with school districts, nonprofits, business and industry, tribal colleges, and other higher education institutions in neighboring states and other countries. My goodness, are we in for a treat today. Thank you all for being here. Jason, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Cindy. And I just have to say, I feel just remarkably humbled to be up with these academics up here. Just so look forward to discussing what is no doubt a complex and complicated subject. There are a few industries going through more challenges than higher education. And when you think about the title, Innovation in Higher Education, Responding to Changes and Challenges, and all that means, you have to have some fuel in the belly to conquer those kind of challenges. I'd like to hear from each of you. What keeps you energized in such a challenging and dynamic industry? I'll start with you, President Dunn.
Well, thanks, and thanks for the opportunity to be with you, but thanks, Jason. Just a lightweight question to kick it off. Well, I think if you could be on campus right now, there's probably 10,000 students in our student union. From 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, there'll be 10,000 students, and that will energize you. It is really an exciting place. And the other thing, I think, is the opportunity that I have through commencement to shake 2,500 hands in a single day and watch them launch into these incredible careers. It's just a very exciting, rewarding, humbling job. So it's pretty easy to stay energized with young people all around you and with their hopes and dreams. So.
Yeah, thank you, President Dunn. President Griggs?
Well, I would say first day of classes, so I kept my phone near me here. I didn't want to leave it at the table. Everything is going great so far, but it's like
I shut mine
we're
off.
working. But it really is. It's an exciting time. It's obviously a challenging time to be in higher ed, working through the pandemic and so forth, but it's a really exciting time to be in higher ed right now. The partnerships and collaborations, I've been fortunate to be at Southeast for 6 years, and the number of partnerships and collaborations with industry, with our colleagues at the Board of Regents, it has increased every year since I've started at Southeast, and so that is a key piece. And I look around the room and I see faces of individuals that have been important contributors to workforce in Sioux Falls and at Southeast Tech in a number of these initiatives, and hopefully we'll have a chance to talk about a few of those. But obviously the partnerships, collaborations, and it's exciting to have students back on campus again.
Thank you, President Griggs. Jay Perry.
Well, that's a tough act to follow. The thing that gets me up every morning and makes me want to go to work is students. And that may sound redundant or obvious, but education, especially post-secondary education, higher education, whatever term you want to use, has the power to be transformative, not just for students and their families, but for entire communities. When you look at the opportunities that become available through economic development, workforce development, personal income, creating better citizens, that's a pretty powerful motivating factor. And I don't want to sit here and pat myself on the back, but I think it's important work for everybody that we have folks that get up and do that. And beyond that, what becomes more exciting, other than being surrounded by that energy of students and the work you're doing, is what policy levers, what student services, what can you put in place or remove that's in place already that helps those students get in the door and then also graduate. And so when you get to work on projects like that, it's pretty motivating and pretty exciting.
Thank you. There were a few things that stood out to me. The energy that the students bring to a campus on the first day is probably unmatched. Collaboration has always been necessary in higher education, and the transformative nature that higher education can bring to a student and collectively to a community and to a society is timeless. But there continues to be some big disruptive factors in higher education that while certainly there's always disruption, it seems like we're in a unique period where disruption is taking on a whole new level of urgency. I would like to hear from all of you, and I know there will probably be some commonalities, but what in your mind are the top 3 disruptive forces that are facing institutions of higher education today? We'll start with you.
Do you want all my 3 or one? And,
No,
sure.
just go
Okay,
your 3 and then just go on down. You bet.
Well, I mean, the obvious one, I think, is the impact of COVID-19 and what that did to the education pipeline. And we don't have answers yet as to just how much it disrupted things. We know that enrollment declined. What we don't know is what those long-term impacts are going to be on from the K-12 side of preparing students, what they missed out on perhaps during that year, and how that's going to impact their ability when they get to college. So we're still wrestling with that. 2, I think there's disruption, and there's a pretty rapidly changing way in which students consume education. We had a big push for years to do more online coursework, and I think in the post-COVID world, there's a little bit of a backlash against that. Now people want to see more face-to-face or more hybrid courses that combine the online and face-to-face learning, and trying to meet students where we need there, as well as President Griggs mentioned, like stackable credentials, or his bio did, which is take a certificate and all the credits in those certificates stacked to an associate degree, and all the credits in that associate degree stacked to a bachelor's degree. And I mention that because one of the things that we see is that students are wanting to go to school short term, then go work, then return again for another certificate or another degree, and not consuming it in this 4-year chunk in the universities in the way they used to, and we're wrestling with that. And then the third one, which may actually be the big one, we can't have students at SDSU or Southeast Tech or USD or USD Sioux Falls if we don't have high school graduates. The rest of the country is about to, starting in 2026, is what they're calling a cliff in the number of high school graduates that are coming out across the country. It's going to be problematic for a lot of universities. The good part of that is in South Dakota, and especially in Sioux Falls, we're actually about to go the opposite direction with a boom in high school graduates. That's going to be good for all of our schools, but at the same time, we're also seeing an uptick in the percentage of students who are not going on to post-secondary education after they graduate from high school. So we have this once-in-a-generation opportunity to educate more people in this state, but if we can't get them to actually come to our places of education, we're going to miss that opportunity. And so that disruption that's the one that's keeping me up at night at the moment.
Interesting. President Griggs.
Sure. Well, I think as Jay mentioned, the comment about the pandemic, that certainly was a challenge and has been really for the last 2 years. But one that's been continual, I think, even before the pandemic, has been the cost of higher ed. So we see that every day at our campus. We have about 40% or so non-traditional students. So they're working adults, they're single-family homes, they're juggling kids, jobs, other responsibilities, trying to make it work, and we hear that. That has raised the I think the importance of our foundation. We have an outstanding foundation board, and they've done some really great work in terms of helping to build scholarship opportunities for students. I'm sure most of you have heard of the Build Dakota program. That's a great program now. This is our 8th cohort we're starting this fall. And what's exciting to me is when I started at Southeast Tech, I think we had 21 Build Dakota full ride scholarship. Half of the tuition for a student is paid by an industry partner, and half is paid by the Build Dakota Fund. And so thank you to Governor Dugard and Governor Noem for continuing that, and of course Denny Sanford, also a large contributor to those scholarship dollars. Those dollars, when we started again, I think we had 21 industry-sponsored scholarships. This year, this fall, we have 108 industry-sponsored scholarships, 138 full-ride scholarships for our students in high-demand programs. So in the trade programs, in healthcare, and in other programs. And I think those scholarship opportunities are just so critical. We hear that, and more of these partnerships and collaborations where business and industry can invest in these individuals, and I would say young people, but not all of them are coming out of high school anymore, and we see that as well. And the last challenge is one I think in particular with Sioux Falls and the growing diverse population that we see in Sioux Falls, and how many of you that are leaders in your industry that are in the room have been out on our campus. We have sector breakfast conversations and meet with you. And many of you have said, how are you going to do this? How are you going to make Southeast Tech more accessible for everyone? So we've taken that on as a challenge. Marcella Prokop, Marcella, you have to wave here. Director of Access and Workforce, sorry Marcella, I'll apologize later. But Access and Workforce Opportunity, she does a great job. Again, we're trying to provide greater access in terms of all individuals. There's 32 to 34% of high school students in Sioux Falls that don't go on to post-secondary. A large share of those students are first-generation, low-income, underrepresented students, and we want to make sure they have an equal opportunity to attend Southeast and hopefully continue on from there to some of our four-year partners.
Thank you, President Griggs. Last but not least, President
Yeah,
Dunn.
well, a lot of good information already. I think the other thing I'd add, or a couple other things I'd add, are the funding model for higher ed. Maybe more so for us than the tech colleges, but dual credit is very disruptive. So dual credit allows a student to take a high school course and at the same time take that course for college credit. There's certainly some quality standards, and hopefully there's enough rigor, but we are seeing the time to degree at our university drop dramatically, and actually the number of graduates is outpacing our freshman enrollment. So because young people are getting done faster than ever. Used to be the best 5 or 6 years of your life. It's now the 3 or 4 years of your life. I was helping a student unload his car and pick up with his family on Friday, and he was bringing 45 credits to campus. He said, well, I'll have a master's in 4 years if it takes me that long in engineering. I mean, very ambitious young man, but 45 credits that we would have typically had sold to him for a much higher price than really the $150, but for him it was $50 a credit hour. So that is eroding our, we're selling 20,000 credit hours fewer than we were 6 years ago. So our revenue has declined a great deal. And that's a good thing. It keeps student debt down, it increases graduation rate, and also in time to degree. So lots of good things about it, but it's changing our funding model of higher ed. The other one I'd just bring up and then is technology and modalities. So virtual reality is just on the cusp of emerging as a major teaching tool on campuses. And so you can teach anatomy in 3D with a set of goggles. And I'm sure that the applications of that in engineering and other topics will be huge. So it's very exciting. it's less expensive. So I think those, it's interesting that those two pressures, we're looking for ways to educate young people more effectively and more cost effectively. So I'll leave it at that, those two things.
So universities, technical colleges, you all listed a number of challenges that university systems, institutes of higher education are facing. I'm really interested just from your own individual perspectives as an industry, how good of a job is the industry doing at facing these challenges? If you had to put it on a scale from 1 to 5, 5 being, wow, we are nailing it, or 1, like we're on the verge of extinction. How would you rank them? I'll start with you, President Dunn.
I'd say 3.5, maybe 4 at our very best. Certainly, graduation rate it remains a challenge for public universities. So, especially if it's especially problematic if there's student debt involved. So I think getting graduation rates higher and higher starts with retention, and we've gone from a 73, 74% retention rate to 80. Last year we were at 81. That's freshman to sophomore. So if you can hold them that first year, you'll pretty much get them graduated. But holding them that first year is really challenging. And I think that I think where we do our best, especially especially proud of SDSU, if you could look at the professional exams that engineers, nurses, pharmacists, and I can go down the line, have to take, our students score extremely well. And so if you're going 1 to 5, our pharmacy program has year after year 1 or 2 in the nation in pass rate and the score. Same with nursing. We have the highest scoring nursing programs in the state. And professional engineers, that's the real measure of success. Graduating is one thing, but we want engineers that can pass the professional engineering exam, don't we? Because to build a bridge or whatever they're going to build for you, let alone a nurse or a medical lab scientist. So I think that I'm super proud of the students that come through SDSU that have these fantastic scores on nationally normed exams. It's just really, really impressive. So 3.5 to 4, I guess.
All right, thank you. President Griggs.
I would say in that probably leaning toward 3 to 4 again. That's just because I would almost dare say 4 to 5, but we are operating in an outstanding community. Sioux Falls has just been incredible to work with in terms of business and industry again, and all of the many partnerships and collaborations that I think have become a hallmark at Southeast in terms of working with industry. And that's not only in terms of companies and so forth, but like for Habitat for Humanity is a good example. We just had a house signing or handing over the keys last week with Habitat, and our students, our construction management students, donated hundreds of hours on that job site, and that's just one of the collaborative types of projects that our students are involved with. We're very proud of the quality of the academic programs that we have. This past spring, I think we had 6 professional associations that came through and either credentialed or re-credentialed all of those different programs from the ACBSP, which is a business accreditation, and we're the first 2-year to have that accreditation in the state of South Dakota, to ASIN, which is our nursing programs, and American Veterinary Medical Association with our Vet Tech program, and reaching out to some new partnerships potentially with SDSU on that. USD has been a great partner as well in a number of different program areas. So I think we're doing well, but again, I think that the bar is raised when you're in Sioux Falls. I have to say that the bar is higher in terms of what is expected and anticipated from our campus in terms of these types of collaborations and partnerships. We have to do a better job of making certain that all of our students are successful in whatever career field they have, and fortunate, again, that we live, work, and raise families in this community.
Thank you, President Griggs.
Well, my fellow panelists both gave it a 3 to 4, so I guess I'm the pessimist, would just say 3. The reason why I say that is we're doing lots of good things, and President Dunn mentioned many of them, the things are going on at SDSU, but that I think apply to all the universities in South Dakota. The four-year graduation rates have nearly doubled in the last 10 years. Our job placement rates are very good at USD and at the other public universities. So in that sense, we're serving students very well. My 3 is kind of back to your question about disruption and how we're meeting those challenges. There are, well, I'll give you one example. The students that we're seeing come into the universities these days are requiring a far greater number of services than generations in the past. Primarily, prime example would be mental health counseling. And COVID just exacerbated that, and it's hard to find mental health counselors. And even if you find them, it's hard to pay them. And so, everyone is striving to meet that need, but we aren't as good as we need to be yet. We also know since we're expanding the kind of students that we are taking into our universities, which is a good thing, and certainly at USD Sioux Falls, we're attracting a far greater number of first-generation college students. In fact, in Sioux Falls, that number is, the student population is twice what it is on the traditional campus in Vermilion. That's great. That's what we want to do. But first-generation college students tend to be mystified by things other students take for granted on a college campus. How do I register for class? How do I drop a class? How do I email a professor? How do I fill out a FAFSA form to get financial aid? Those kinds of things that we're still working our way through how to better serve those. I know at the USD Sioux Falls site, we've started a mentoring program that's more a student success program, success advisor kind of approach, where we have some people using graduate students there to be available to students to ask whatever that question is. I don't know how to do X, rather than have that person drop out because they didn't know how to do that or get that service on campus. This is the person you can go to who will demystify that process through and walk it through. So we're trying, I know everybody on this stage and in the entire state is trying to get better at those things, but they all require resources, and resources are in short demand
Supply.
for all of us. Yeah, supply, thank you. That's why I'm not an econ major.
Well, there were a couple things said here in response to my last question that I want to touch on. President Dunn, you had commented one of the challenges being completion rates, and the first year is so pivotal. And Jay brought up the comment about the work that's being done at all of your campuses to really meet the needs of the first generation Americans. When you have a language barrier and you have the other challenges that first generation Americans face, that those of us that are fortunate enough to not be first generation Americans don't have to face, how do we help them? What is the success rate of those students getting through their first year, second year? And what are your universities and schools doing to help drive that number north? I'll start with you, President Griggs.
Sure. I think just thinking back with your question within the last year, you're right in terms of many of those students, whether they're first generation, underrepresented students that, especially if they have English language challenges there, it definitely raises in terms of the opportunity to try to do more for them. And as an example, I think this past year we have an academic resource center, which is our tutoring support center. Again, this is an example of, I think, the foundation stepping in and helping out the college in terms of partnerships and collaborations. Kira is here, so Kira Carson, Marsh McClellan, was a big financial supporter for us this past year, contributed additional $50,000 for our academic resource center so we could extend the hours in the evening, add ESL tutoring to our list of support, and it's those kinds of things that I think are, as Jay mentioned, we're trying to respond to many of those challenges that are so critical. We have a number of these students that, ESL students in particular, just as an example in some of our healthcare programs, and so they're dealing with the challenge of learning the English language at the same time of all of this medical terminology and the acronyms that are so part of that field of study. And so having that extra support has just been critical for many, many of our students, and I think we're seeing an impact now. This will be the second year where we will have expanded support services in those areas, and so we're excited to see hopefully some of those, the retention rate increase for those different students.
Okay, thank you. President Dunn.
I'd like to take the opportunity to, and answer your question, Jason, to talk about our Wikini initiative, which is a major initiative on campus to better serve the Native American population in South Dakota. So 10% of our, 9 to 10% of our population, maybe 1 to 2% go on to higher education, and those that do across the 3 schools that you have in front of us would be very, very low success rates. So when I became president, we started addressing that, and we built a brand new American Indian Student Center with a gift from a very generous donor in the heart of campus. We're providing very large scholarships to bridge the aid that either public or private is provided to American Indian students. We bridged it to basically full cost of attendance, and it's absolutely working. We had the first cohort graduated last spring, and their graduation rate, 4-year graduation rate, was much higher than the student bodies, and it's because we care, because we have additional counseling, we have a living learning community for them as freshmen, and so Wednesday night last week, Jane and I had a house full of these young people from all over South Dakota who are American Indians, and for a picnic, and they have every hope and every dream that any of us have, but the success we've had is because we're showing them multiple ways, not only financially, but also in extra counseling, extra advising, extra programming, and we built a home for them, and right next to the Ben Rifle dorm, and I hope you all know who Ben Rifle is, and it's going to work. It's hard. It's an enormously hard transition. I have my own family history behind that, but it's going to work. But our expression that we've started a new beginning. That's what Wokini means in Lakota, because we're going to do it differently. 20% or less graduation rate of American Indian students is no longer acceptable. We are going to have our students succeed at the rate at or better than our student body. And it's that commitment of caring that I think is going to make a difference. Really, really excited about that work.
Thank you. No doubt a huge issue, huge challenge, and I just look forward to the collaboration that the universities can do with the private sector to, how can we, because if we want to continue to feed talent into our workforce, we have to.
Can I just follow up on that? So if you watched KELOLAND this morning, every story about crime had what in common? The person that they were seeking as the criminal was American Indian. This is not just a federal problem or a tribal problem. This is a problem for South Dakota. This is a problem for Sioux Falls, Rapid City, Pierre, Winter, this whole state. If you do the math, this state spends over $30 million a year, and that's back of the napkin. I don't have any. This is stuff that I got off the web and did some. We spend over $30 million incarcerating. That's just room and board. What it costs this state to do what we saw in KELOLAND this morning is enormous, and it should be unacceptable to all of us, and we should all get together and figure out some solutions, because We've been doing it for 100 and some years. Why do we know it's not working? So let's find something in this state that works, and education is the key to these young people's futures. And I just would challenge Sioux Falls to help us out, and let's get this thing fixed.
Cindy, I don't mean to, I'm not the president anymore, but I bet there's a program there sometime down the line. I want to talk a little bit, well, you can't talk about higher education and the challenges confronting higher education without talking about affordability and the value that we can put on higher education. You know, I think back to my own experience, and just no price tag could ever be placed on how important my experience was, and I suspect nearly everybody in this room has the same feelings. But no doubt it's just continuing to get more and more unaffordable. The higher education price index seems like double or more than the consumer price index, it seems. Maybe not today, but most of the time. Or maybe I'm wrong.
You are.
Okay, well then that's why you're here. So President Dunn, explain to me why the affordability is not an issue.
Because our state legislators and our governor, with our Board of Regents, held tuition flat. The greatest inflation since when I was a young person, many decades ago, 9% inflation, and we were able to hold, because of the leadership of South Dakota, we were able to hold tuition flat. It is an enormous value given what students are entering the workforce for. So great leadership, Regent Van Huysen. So thanks for that, and hopefully we can do that again. We are very well, over a third of our students leave campus without any debt, and those that do have debt, last year it averaged about $23,000. Now it's not a bell-shaped curve. There's some really crazy debt figures out there, but we are not. We don't have the same story in South Dakota as many places in the nation, and we have nurses leaving our school going to work for $60,000 a year. We have engineers at $75,000 a year. So this hyperinflation, and they're leaving faster than ever, sadly. But anyway, I don't mean to be argumentative, Jason, but we are not the national story. And to $20,000 a year at SDSU would cost you. We're 80% of the cost of University of Nebraska or the University of Minnesota. You know, our two major land grant competitors are Iowa State. So we're affordable. Our kids graduate successfully, high jobs. So I think it is. I think it's a great value.
Okay,
Sorry.
good. I believe it is. President Griggs, Jay, how do you see it? I mean, when you look at the affordability, the student loan debt as an industry or as a country or a society, do you see it the same way that President Dunn does, or are there other concerns, or is this just something that society misunderstands?
Well, this is an area where now I'm an optimist. I'll be the optimist on it. Just as a frame of reference, in the last 5 years, tuition at the public universities in South Dakota has gone up 12%. The cost of living has gone up nationally 21%. So now, do I know that off the top of my head? No, I looked it up last night. But the reason why I looked it up because there was a period where I think we were raising tuition at a rate that was a problem for students and families. But the Board of Regents has made affordability a priority, as have I think the universities in general on each individual campus too, and are now taking this very seriously. And President Dunn's earlier comments about the leadership between the governor's office and the legislature and the Board of Regents to get a tuition freeze for this year was very helpful. But on the student loan thing, I just want to say this. The investment in student loans is a good investment. On average, a bachelor's degree holder makes $1 million more over the course of a work lifetime than someone who just has a high school diploma. So come out $25,000 in debt, no one wants to be $25,000 in debt, but $25,000 against $1 million over your work life is a pretty good investment. In South Dakota, we have had a historic problem where we have had high student loan debt, higher percentage of students with debt, and that's because we have not had good financial, need-based financial scholarship programs in the state. We now have the Freedom Scholarship, a public-private partnership that is, what is that up to, Barry? Is that at $100 million that's in that?
175 million.
There you go. That I think is going to be transformative for higher education in the state, and especially for low-income students and families, and will take that debt down. But the best part of the student debt story in South Dakota, why we rank high on these national lists for amount of debt and percentage of students with debt, we also rank low in debt default. I mean, our graduates are getting jobs and they are paying those loans off, and that is not the case in other places. And so the key really is, if you're going to take that debt, graduate. It's the people who take that debt and that don't end up with a diploma that end up finding themselves in very difficult situations as they move on. So,
All the more reason to the question of getting people through their first year so they can get that traction that's necessary.
But the future is much brighter today than it was 2 years ago on affordability in South Dakota.
Good. All right, thank you. There's always a lot of talk, and I don't like to look at them as mutually exclusive. I see them both personally as key to a healthy society. You have technical colleges, you have liberal art universities, and there's a discussion about how valuable a philosophy degree is or whatever. Can we just talk a little bit about that? Don't you need both for a well-functioning society as opposed to one or the other? And I'd like everybody to just kind of weigh in on this topic, because sometimes it turns into a debate, and I wonder if it's less of a debate and more about how both can just work really well. I'll start with you, President Griggs.
Sure. To me, that it is in higher ed. It's absolutely critical that we provide academic pathways, from K-12 to 2-year and 4-year educational institutions, but also then, as a technical college, a lot of our students are coming, to earn or learn those skills that will provide them the opportunity to start a career. And in many instances, I think, 20 years ago, the thinking was very much, well, it's just, a job and very blue-collar type of approach. And I can tell you all right now, we have 60 programs on our campus, and every one of them uses technology to a degree that it's just amazing. It really is in terms of how higher ed has changed and the career and technical fields as well. Keeping pace with industry requires that heightened degree of training and support. And so having that opportunity, though, having those students that are successful, going out in the workforce for a couple of years, and then maybe deciding, I want to go on further, and maybe that requires a 4-year baccalaureate degree, and having that ability to have a path without starting over. We talked a bit about the cost and expense of doing that, and so those collaborations and partnerships are absolutely huge for students at our signing ceremony. We just had a large signing ceremony with President Dunn and members of the nursing faculty out at Southeast Tech. It was a great honor to have him on campus and to sign a very important nursing articulation. I think that's the first time that in South Dakota that we have all of the nursing credits earned at Southeast Tech that will now go on and be accepted at SDSU in their nursing program. And everyone knows how challenged healthcare is right now for career professionals, and it's these types of collaborations and partnerships that I think build those pathways that we're going to see more and more of, hopefully, going forward.
President Dunn.
Yeah, I'll take it on a personal level. My older brother graduated with technical degrees too, in a long time ago, but had a tremendous career, ended up as a technical engineer for Caterpillar. He flew all over the world, teaching and fixing large machinery that Caterpillar built. And they just graduated, or just retired a couple years ago. He's still working part-time for him. He's a brilliant diagnostician. I can swear Greg can fix anything. So with technical degree. And and I got a 4-year degree and ended up as, unbelievably, as a president of a university. But, Greg's path was fantastic for Greg, and my path worked out pretty well too. So I think that being honest and straightforward about that, some people don't belong in a 4-year school, but will exceed at a 2-year technical degree is absolutely the right approach. It's my personal belief, and hopefully we're expressing that by signing the documents that we signed the other day really reflect my personal goals and aspirations, that we open doors for young people to succeed at a level they can. Just to throw a name out, I hope it's okay with Jeff, but Jeff Laut got a technical engineering degree so he's the COO of Raven, I guess you probably already know, but technical degree at Lake Area, came to SDSU, got a bachelor's in engineering, and is now this leader of industry here in Sioux Falls, but all across the world actually. So I think that's the story that Bob talked about, is having a pathway that's affordable, and the timing was right for Jeff, given some family situations, and it's a great story. So I think that's, we're all honestly, and Jason, pretty good partners. So.
Jay, do you want to comment on that?
Sure,
one?
just briefly. I think we do a disservice in this state when we try to pit technical education versus the liberal arts education, or the 2-year schools versus the 4-year schools. What we need both, and we just need more students going to one or the other. But so often in the halls of the Capitol or other places, it becomes it's approached to you as a zero-sum game, and it really shouldn't be. With that said, I do want to make that I do work for the school that state statute says is the liberal arts university in the state. So one quick plug on the liberal arts. I know it's been trendy for a decade or longer to, what are you going to do with that philosophy degree, or what are you going to do with that English degree or history degree? And I think that is also the wrong question. What can't you do with those degrees? One third. The last time I read this, which was a couple years ago, 1/3 of the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies had a liberal arts degree. You learn problem solving, critical thinking skills, oral and written communication, all things that are applicable to any industry, any job. But we need that coupled with those technical skills too. So just my summary answer is, let's just get more students going to all of our schools and stop hitting us against each other. That will be better for Sioux Falls and South Dakota in the long run.
Help more get in and help more finish successfully. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today. We are at our time, but this topic could no doubt go on for another couple hours. So I just appreciate us hitting the top points as well as we did. And so thank you so much for joining us.
I'd like to echo Jason's appreciation for having you all here. Certainly insightful, and what an exciting time on all of your campuses and for our state and the young people that we are hopefully going to bring into this room sooner than later. Before we end today, our next program, August 29th, we are going to have a chance to meet the new Summit League Commissioner, Josh Fenton. With that, thank you all for being here. Rotary is adjourned.